I'm here with Denise Norris. She's lost an incredible amount of weight. And Denise, thanks so much for the time. And maybe we could just start off with a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
Well, I'm from all over, actually. I live in Indiana right now, but I moved here from New York, upstate New York, where I met my husband online. Before that, I lived in Pennsylvania. I've lived in Arkansas, originally from Tennessee. So I moved all over the United States pretty much. But I'm 42 years old now. Just recently had a career change, started to become a nurse in September. And let's see, there's not much else to tell me besides, I lost 234 pounds.
Yeah, that's kind of a big side note there.
Yeah.
So, 234 pounds, number one, it's kind of hard to imagine you as 234 pounds heavier. But, I know you said you were kind of from all over. What did life look like growing up? Was your weight something that came on later in life, or was it something that you struggled with since you were younger?
Well, it's weird because I have always thought that I was fat. Even when I was younger, if I look back at the pictures now, I was not fat. But everybody told me I was fat because I'm tall. I'm like 5'10". I used to be 5'10.5", but I'm shrinking. But I've always been tall, and everybody told me I was fat. So I always thought I was fat, but I wasn't. I look back at those pictures now, and it makes me so mad because I'm like, I was not fat. But people would tell me, they're like, oh, you have such a pretty face. Like, yeah, but the rest of me is ugly, so I heard that all the time. So I always struggled with it. I always thought I was fat. I never liked myself. And I grew up in a house where there was abuse. I had mental, physical, sexual abuse. So I pretty much hated myself most of my life growing up. I didn't really put on the weight, though, until after I got out of the house and, got living on my own and was poor. Couldn't afford to buy good food and didn't really want to cook. So I bought a bunch of junk food and, just sat in my house by myself eating and just really packed it on after high school is when it really just started packing on because I stopped being active. I used to play basketball in high school. And then, life changed a lot after high school.
And then what did, I know you said junk food. What did your diet look like at that time?
When I got out of high school, oh man, I was eating ramen noodle soup. That's the cheapest, quickest meal is ramen noodle soup, chips. And of course, I've always had eating issues with eating. So I would binge. When I eat chips or cookies or something, I don't just eat one serving of it. Who eats one cookie? I would eat the entire pack or the entire bag of chips. Once it's like that commercial, the Pringles, once you pop it, you can't stop. That's me. I would eat the entire bag. So, it was junk food, chips, cookies, ramen noodles, lots of pasta, starches, brownies, just a bunch of junk. Stuff that I wasn't really allowed to have when I was a kid because my mom was, pretty strict about, what we ate as a kid. I remember her locking food up so that we couldn't get it. So it was I just went wild when I got out of the house. I was like, oh, now I'm allowed to have it. So I just, went way over the top and didn't restrict myself at all.
And was there ever a time during that period where, you looked at what you were eating, the causes of it, in terms of actually what it was doing to your body, and ever considered kind of reversing it?
No, not at the time, because I really didn't start having any, medical problems until I was probably in my 30s, late 20s, early 30s. So, I was starting to pack on the weight, but I really didn't, suffer any consequences medically from it until later on. And it really wasn't until, maybe 4 years ago that even after I had had all these medical issues, I had migraines that I was taking prescriptions for and preventative prescriptions, which they never prevented them. But I even still had to give myself injections when I got them. And I got the migraine so bad that I was suicidal from it. I just wanted to die because, if anybody has ever had a migraine, they understand that you can't function in life. You just lay there and just hope you die because it's so bad. I even had to go to the emergency room because of it and get injections, and it just never helped. And I had, because I had eating disorders, I used to make myself throw up all the time. So I had a hiatal hernia, so I would get GERD, and I would wake up in the middle of the night, literally feeling like a volcano was coming out of my throat. And I would have panic attacks because I felt like I couldn't breathe. I would wake up and my throat would be on fire. So even with all of that, I still kept eating. You know, I knew in the back of my mind that it was related to my weight and what I ate and stuff. But I guess at some point when you get so big, you feel like you can't do anything about it, that it's just too much. It's too big of a mountain to tackle, basically. So you're like, whatever, I'm just going to keep doing it until I die, basically. That's how I got to the point where I just thought, well, it's going to be now or never.
Wow. And then how long did it take for you to kind of put on the weight? You know, did it happen really fast, or was it just a really slow progression of time?
It kind of was a slow progression. I mean, from the time, like, I would say from like 18 until probably my late 20s, I was probably like a size maybe 2X. I had gone from probably like a size 14 to like a 2X, but it had slowly come on. I just didn't really, I don't know, I guess I didn't really pay attention too much to it because you don't think about it. You don't want to think about it. You know, you avoid the mirrors and the cameras and stuff like that. So I really don't remember like keeping track of it. But I think after like in my 30s is when I pretty much stopped like caring altogether, and I just ate and just really didn't care what I looked like, just bought clothes to cover me, not because I liked them or I thought I looked good in them, you know?
Yeah, and then what was life like, you know, when you were at your biggest? Did you have any kind of limitations or?
It was horrible. I mean, I've broken chairs. I got kicked off of an amusement park ride one time because the lap belt wouldn't close or lock on me, so they kicked me off of the ride because I was too fat to ride a roller coaster. And I got to ride one. I went to Kings Island last year. That was pretty cool. But yeah, I would get panic attacks when people would say, hey, let's meet up. And I remember one time somebody asked me to go to Mall of America. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, do I look like somebody who wants to walk Mall of America? You know, like it was just so isolating because I didn't have the energy to do any of that stuff with anybody. Yeah, I wanted to, but I was like, no, I'm going to be the one huffing and puffing in the back and, you know, sweating, and nothing in the store is going to fit me anyway. So why do I want to go, you know? And yeah, people would like ask me to go to the restaurants, and I would have to get there early if I did to make sure that I got a table instead of a booth, because I've had that happen to me before where you go in and you're like embarrassed and you get like the deer in a headlight look and you're like, oh crap, man, all they have is booths. I'm not going to fit in this. That's embarrassing for that to happen in front of people. And you'd be like, I've had to leave a restaurant before because all they had was booths. They didn't have tables and chairs. And I've had to pay more than my fair share of seatbelt tickets because I couldn't buckle my seatbelt. So I got pulled over a couple times and had to pay a fine. And then, I mean, I remember one time I was riding with a friend, and, you know, now they got those newer cars where that noise like chimes at you constantly if you don't buckle your seatbelt. Well, I was riding in the passenger seat with him, and I was trying to avoid putting it on because I was in the passenger seat. I thought, he's not going to notice. Well, the passenger seat even chimed the whole entire time, and he finally looked at me. He's like, will you put your seatbelt on? I'm like, I can't, man. I'm too fat. Sorry, you know? But that was so embarrassing. But yeah, I've had lots of stuff like that happen. I mean, just being restricted as far as like activities and hanging out with friends. I got really reclusive and just really sat at home and watched TV and ate more.
I think in a message you said to me that you had no energy, you could barely breathe, and lost your desire to live. I was either at the point of dying or making a serious change. You know, I know you kind of alluded to it there a little bit, but where are you at mentally at this point?
Oh, now, I mean, it's a completely different person. Sometimes, you know, like in the beginning you said, it's hard to imagine me being 234 pounds heavier. Sometimes I feel like that about myself because, I don't know, you almost kind of forget. Not that I'll ever forget going through that, but I feel like I'm a completely different person now. Mentally, physically, I mean, in every different way. Sometimes I'll have to like look back at my pictures to like remind myself where I'm at. But it's weird because sometimes I still even, I get in those days where I still feel like the fat person, because it's hard to change that mentally, you know, because you're like, I don't know, I'm not like completely at my goal, and being that heavy, I still have like excess skin. So, you know, sometimes I'll get down on myself and think, oh, I'm never going to be able to wear a tank top or a bikini or something like that. And then, you know, I think of myself as fat. And then other people, I had somebody the other day at work called me skinny mini. I'm like, what? Who are you talking to? Like, that's not me. And I'm like, oh yeah, I am kind of skinny now, you know? So it's hard. Like, your mind is very powerful, and it's hard to like change that mindset. But probably about, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, I started doing yoga, and it has really like helped me love myself, you know, to go within and forgive myself. Sorry, it's going to make me emotional. But I hated myself for so long for like letting myself go that far, you know, and I thought I just ruined everything. So I've gotten to the point now where I'm on that journey of loving myself and forgiving myself for doing that to myself. And now, I mean, I've gotten closer to God because of it. And I'm learning to see my identity in Him instead of like what other people want me to be or think I should be. Now I get to the point where people are the opposite and they tell me I'm too skinny now. I mean, the same people that used to tell me I was too fat tell me I'm too skinny now. And I'm like, it really doesn't matter anymore what you guys think, because before, when I was skinny, I was too fat. So, I don't know. I guess I'm learning to live for me and love me.
Well, that's awesome. You know, so did you have kind of a point at which you decided to make a change? Was there a moment of decision that you made to kind of, you know, turn things around and get to the skinny mini self now?
Yeah, it was, well, in 2010, well, I got my dog, Charlie, golden retriever. I got him as a puppy in 2009, and puppies have a lot of energy. And he was always wanting to go on walks. And back then I used to smoke. So that, like, you know, was a double whammy on my breathing. And I mean, I would get to the point where I would just barely walk down to the end of the driveway with him, and I would be so out of breath and I couldn't do anything. And I wanted to be that type of person that would be able to take their dog like on hikes and, you know, hike a mountain or go kayaking with a dog, stuff like that. I wanted to be active, but I couldn't. So I guess that's when I decided in January of 2011, I decided to join Weight Watchers, and I thought I have to do something. And I loved Weight Watchers for a couple of reasons, but it gave me the support that I needed. Because I didn't have any support around me. My husband wasn't supportive of my transition. He actually told me he thought I was abducted by aliens because of how I completely changed my eating and everything. So they gave me support, but they also like helped me focus on small goals, like 5 pounds at a time. And then it, you know, after a while it just added up. So I lost my first 100 pounds with them, and it kind of helped me focus on the small goals so that I didn't, I mean, it seemed like so much. I just didn't think I would ever be able to do it. But I know I needed to do it because I didn't want to keep living life the way I was living. I didn't really feel like I was living life. I just felt like I was existing from day to day. So I guess that's what made me decide, was basically getting a dog and wanting to have more out of life.
And whenever you first got the dog, do you think at some level you knew that was going to just create a change by having a dog, and that something different would happen? Or were you kind of oblivious and just thought this will be fun?
Yeah, I think I was just kind of oblivious and just thought it would be fun because I lived in a trailer before, and I've always wanted a dog. I've always wanted a golden retriever. And I told my husband when we got a house that was one of my stipulations, is that I wanted a house with a backyard so I could have a dog. And it's kind of funny or ironic now because I have this big backyard and he won't even go out there unless I'm out there with him. So I could have gotten him in the trailer, but so yeah, I didn't really get him thinking that he was going to change my life. And like, make me lose weight or anything. I just wanted a dog. I've always wanted one. So it just ended up being something that completely changed my life.
Wow. And so, I know it's a common thing, especially for people who have a decent amount of weight to lose. It's like, I think I was having a conversation with Josh, and he was like, I had lost 100 pounds. People were telling me I look great, but nobody was willing to tell me, or I wasn't, it was like, how do you tell yourself, hey, look, good job, pat on the back, you still got 100 pounds to go. How did you, at that 100-pound mark, I think, and you even said to me that, you hit a plateau. How did you keep yourself motivated to look at that next huge hill ahead of you, that huge mountain ahead of you?
Well, that's when I decided to actually change my eating, because in the beginning, when I first started with Weight Watchers, it was all about losing weight. And it wasn't about my health or what I was eating, because I was still eating junk food, but I was at a plateau for 6 months where I was gaining and losing the same 20 pounds, and it got so depressing. And I almost got to the point where I was starting to gain weight back, and I thought I could easily gain this 100 pounds back, and I don't want to gain it back, So I was like, I need to tweak this plan a little bit more and make another change. And one of my Weight Watcher, what's she called, a leader there, was vegetarian. So we got to talking a little bit, and I decided, well, if, it's working for her, and she looked good, and she looked healthy and everything, so I'm going to try that. And besides meat, I guess I got to the point where I was getting allergic to it. So I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I had diarrhea and vomiting. I'd break out in hives. It was horrible. It only took me 2 or 3 times to realize, hey, you shouldn't be eating that crap anymore, So I gave up meat. That wasn't real hard to give up. And then I watched a couple documentaries, one called Food Inc., and the other one was Forks Over Knives. And that really gave me a mind shift. It opened my eyes after I watched those, and I thought, oh my gosh, I need to be eating for health, not just to lose the weight. And I got so sick of counting the points with Weight Watchers, and you had to weigh everything that you went into your mouth, and it just got monotonous, and it got to be drudgery instead of something that I looked forward to. And now I eat completely plant-based. I don't eat any animal products, no sugar, no oil. And I'm glad that I did it, because like I said, I'm a type of person that likes to eat. So I eat a lot. And I actually get made fun of for how much I eat. When I'm at work, people are the other nurses that I'm with, I have a huge plate of food, and I'm just chowing down on it, and they're like, how are you so skinny? And man, that's a lot of food. And here they are over there counting out their French fries. And I'm like, I don't know. So now my mindset is, what I put in my mouth, is it going to help me or harm me? And the other saying I really love that keeps me going is, nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. And I had to say that to myself a lot over the holidays, because this was my first year working out of my house, because before that I worked for 5 years at home. So I kind of was able to control my environment a little bit. I told my husband to put his crap somewhere where I couldn't see it. But when you're working in a place where, man, all the doctors would buy these really expensive chocolates, and they would, the drug reps bring in all this food and everything, and here I am over there eating, my healthy food, and the stuff looked good and it smelled good, but I would tell myself, nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. It might taste good for a second, but then it's going to make me feel like crap, and I'm going to gain weight, and and then I'm going to get all my medical problems back. So that's what kept me from not going back to any of that crap.
Yeah, it's a little ironic and terribly sad to hear that you're the only person in the hospital not eating stuff that's that's basically what puts the people in there in the first place.
Yes, and as a nurse, I see what people go through, the procedures that they have to do because of their weight and what they're eating and stuff. And man, I definitely don't want to be in that position. But now I kind of feel like it's my, I wouldn't want to say destiny, but I feel like it's my obligation to kind of help change the environment. I have a clipboard that I use at work, and I have my before and after picture on the clipboard. So like any of the patients that I feel like are open or receptive to changing their diet, I share my before and after picture with them. And man, some of them you can see it like their face light up and they're like, man, you did that? How'd you do that? And every time I come back in the room, they're like, well, what'd you use for dressing? And how do you fry your stuff? And, you know, so like it just kind of opens that door. And I love that. I love seeing the I don't know, that light kind of come on in somebody's eyes that say, you know, if she can do it, I can do it. You know, so I would love to be able to share more information with patients, but because it's a hospital, you know, I'm not able to do that. They said I had to like bring the research to them and see if they'll approve it. So that's kind of my goal in the next year is to get some of that stuff changed.
I know that you said, kind of to go back a little bit, I know you kind of fast forward through that whole process of, you know, changing your diet, doing whole food plant-based. But initially, I think you told me that you thought it was crazy and you were willing to give it 30 days, even though you thought it was crazy. Why did you have that willingness to try something that, you know, it almost sounds like you believe just wasn't worth trying?
Yeah, well, basically because my best friend did it and she wanted me to do it with her. Because, yeah, she was the one that had found out about it. And I remember when I was over to her house, she was like, here, just try this almond milk. I'm like, ew, who drinks almond milk? Like, how do you get almonds and think milk? You know, I'm like, I didn't even want to try it, I remember. And then she's like, just take a sip of it. And I'm like, okay. So I tasted it. I'm like, man, that's actually pretty good. Like, it was better than regular milk, you know? So, yeah, I basically just started it because she wanted somebody to do it with her. And I was like, okay. And she was talking to the person online, and she was like wanting to go out and meet them. They lived in Chicago at the time. So I thought, well, if I'm going to go out there and meet them and like take a trip out there, I'm going to have to like say I did it and see if there's any change, you know, because I don't want to go meet these people and like not do it. So I did. I was like, all right, I'll do it for 30 days. And yeah, I lost 16 pounds the first 30 days and I was hooked after that. And I was like, and I felt so much better. Like my energy level almost like doubled in 30 days. I mean, the first couple weeks, I say, was kind of bad, you know, because you kind of go through like some detox and some withdrawal, you know, when you're used to eating chocolate and sugar every day and then you don't, you're kind of like, I don't know, pissed off at first. At least I was. But I just stuck with it. And after a while, your taste buds really do change. And I kind of got hooked on feeling good, you know, so then I just stuck with it.
So not to speak ill or throw anybody under the bus, but it sounds like either you lived in or you currently live in a house divided in terms of food. And so can you talk about that a little bit and what that process has been like?
Yeah, it's been tough. My husband doesn't really support how I eat. He really didn't even want me to, I don't even think he really wanted me to lose the weight. Because, I mean, I was fat when he married me, so he really didn't have a problem with me being fat. And that was kind of what we did together. You know, we watched movies and ordered pizza together. So, like, when I changed, it pretty much, I think it hurt his feelings, you know, because he says I did it without consulting him first, which I was like, it's my body. Why do I need to consult you first? But anyway, so yeah, it kind of put a like rift between us. I used to like cook for us all the time, and then I used to like do his meals and then do mine, and then I got to the point where I was like, you either eat what I eat or you cook your own. I know it might sound mean, but that's how I grew up. You know, you eat what's on the table or you don't eat. So now we shop separate, we eat separate. Like I make him keep his food in his own bookshelf thing that he's got his, and I keep mine separate. Sometimes he'll try the food that I make, but he always adds like his own cheese or sour cream or something to it. So for a while there, it kind of like bothered me and depressed me that I didn't have it, because it's so much easier to have somebody do it with you. But also in a way, it kind of gave me the incentive or the push to do it even more, because I'm that type of person that if you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to do it even more, and I'm going to be like, watch me. And that's kind of what happened. You know, I was like, just watch, you know. Yeah, he was the one that told me that he thought I was abducted by aliens because I was eating kale and quinoa and stuff that he couldn't pronounce, I'd never heard of, you know. And he's like, he goes, next thing I know, you're going to be out there hugging trees. And, but I don't know. I guess that just toughened me up a little bit, and I decided to stick with it and do it anyway.
Yeah, and then where are you at now in comparison to your physical ailments and whatnot that you had previously? How do those kind of compare to where you're at now?
Oh, well, I used to be on medications for migraines, for GERD, a bunch of other stuff. And it's hard now that I don't even remember everything that I suffered through back then. But I knew I was on a lot more medications. I'm not on any prescription medicines anymore. I don't get migraines anymore. I still get headaches once in a while because I'm a walking barometer. So anytime a storm comes through, my sinuses tell me about it. But I'm not to the point where I'm laying in the bed dying and thinking that I want to kill myself. And, I just take some natural supplements or something like that to deal with it. I don't even get heartburn anymore, which is amazing because, yeah, it was horrible before. I was pre-diabetic before. They wanted to put me on, and that's kind of one of the things that pushed me too, is like, oh my God, I don't want to be that person that has to check your sugar 3 times a day and give yourself injections and all that kind of stuff. So that was when I was like, nope, I need to do something on my own because I don't want to go down that path. And now, like, all my numbers are spot on. My cholesterol is good. All that stuff is great. I went to the doctor I don't know, last year sometime, and she goes, I've never seen blood, labs that good on somebody at your age. So, and I was like, it's plants. It's plant power. So, yeah, I don't have any, I still have I have arthritis now because, if you're over 200 and something pounds, or I was almost 500 pounds at my heaviest, that puts a lot of wear and tear on your joints, So I still have arthritis that I deal with, but I don't have to take any medicine for it.
That's awesome. So, you go from almost 500 pounds, a smoker, pre-diabetic, to, best blood work your doctor's ever seen, 234 pounds lighter, and now you're a nurse. What kind of piqued your interest in becoming a nurse? Was that something that you were interested in before, or is it something that kind of developed as you kind of developed in your journey?
Yeah, I've always been interested in the medical field. I actually wanted to be a doctor, but I don't know. I always thought because I was too fat, I didn't think I would be able to do it. I didn't think I would have the stamina to do it. I always think, man, the doctors, they have to work I don't know, sometimes 24-hour shifts, and they're on their feet all the time. I'm like, there's no way I could do that, So I never pursued it because I didn't think I was physically able to do it. I always knew I was smart enough to do it, but I just didn't think I was physically able to do it. So I lost my job a couple years ago, and it kind of pushed me to make that career change because I had a bachelor's in psychology, and it was kind of like either go do case management type work, which really didn't interest me, and I was kind of depressed about having to do it because I didn't feel like I was making a change or helping anybody, And so when I got laid off, I became a dislocated worker, and my work one offered a program where they would help pay for some of the schooling. And I thought, man, this is my perfect opportunity to go back to school. So that's when I decided to go for nursing because it was a quicker way to get into the medical field. And now that I'm a nurse, I realize nurses have more contact with patients than doctors do. You're there with them all day. The doctors only see them for an hour. So I like nursing better than I do the doctor now. But eventually, I think I would like to be nurse practitioner because, I don't know, now, I've only been doing this since September, but now I kind of feel, because I'm in the hospital, I kind of feel like I'm just pushing medication, and I don't really feel like I get enough time with the patients to actually help them make a lifestyle change, because that's what they need, is making a lifestyle change. So my goal eventually down the road is to be a nurse practitioner and help people with functional medicine and, look at the cause of why they're there and not just, here's a pill. See you next time you have to come in for the same problem,
Yeah, that's awesome. I know you kind of talked about yoga before. What does that look like now? Is that something you still practice?
Oh, yeah. Yep, I do it every day. And I remember when I first started, I went to a yoga class in a studio here in town, And there's always skinny girls in there with these cute little skinny yoga pants and, cute yoga tank tops and stuff. And here I am in my sweatshirt and my like long shirt, because it was a couple years ago that I started. But I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. But I told myself when I went to the first class that I would give myself 3 classes to try it out. And the first class, I was like, there's no way I'm going to do this. Like, I could hardly hold myself up in a down dog. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so weak. Well, the second class that I went to, and of course, I always stay in the back because I still have that mindset of being the fat person, so you always like try to hide. So I was always got in the back of the class. But my second class that I went to, I actually, even just in 2 classes, I noticed a difference. I noticed that I could hold up the down dog a little bit longer, or I could, get in a position that I couldn't before, even if it wasn't like the correct position that you're supposed to be in. It was better than it was before. And I was like, man, that's a great improvement just from 1 class. So I was like, okay, I'll give it another shot. We'll go for the third one. And I was hooked. By 3 classes, I was hooked. And now, and before I was like barely able to do a yoga class for like 15 minutes. Now I do an hour every day. So now I can actually hold a tree pose where you're like standing on 1 foot. And so it's definitely practice. And I think that's what I like about yoga, is that you're not competing with anybody else. You don't have to do what the person next to you is doing. Like, you're there to improve yourself. As long as you're doing better than what you were the day before, So, and that's kind of how you take yoga off the mat into your own life, and you do the best you can. And some days are going to be better than others.
And then, what role is the puppy playing these days in your life?
Well, it's kind of funny because, when he was younger and we would go on walks, he was basically like pulling me down the street. And now I'm kind of pulling him down the street. He's going to be 8 in February. So he still has quite a bit of energy, but he's slowing down now. But he wants to get out there and do stuff with me initially. And then, because we walk like up to 6 to 8 miles a day now. Whereas before I could like barely walk to the end of the driveway and back. So now we get out there, and by the time we're coming back, I'm kind of like encouraging him to come on. You can make it. We're almost there, buddy. So, yeah.
Wow. So hardly can make it to the end of the driveway to 6 to 8 miles. It's quite a change.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
That's outstanding. Is there anything about this whole process, this journey, that surprised you that, that looking back from where you are today, that you just would have never have anticipated or dreamed?
Well, I mean, the whole thing, really. Back when I was almost 500 pounds, I would have never dreamed that I was where I am today, a nurse. I can wear a size 8 now. I started in a size 8X. Like, I was like so big that I could not buy clothes anywhere in town. That was the other thing about being big, is that, I had to buy all my clothes online. And of course, you can't try anything on. You just basically get things that'll cover the fat rolls up. But yeah, I was an 8X, and now I can wear a size 8. I mean, that blows my mind. I would have never thought back then that I would be an 8 today. I remember when I first started, I was like, man, I would be happy if I could just get down to a size 16, and it just, I don't know, it just happened, and it just happened, really. I know I worked on it every day, but I would have never thought back then that it was possible. And in the back of your mind, you kind of hope it is, but you don't want to hope too much, because then you'll get yourself disappointed when it doesn't happen. So, I don't know, you just kind of take it day by day and do the best you can every day, and eventually your hard work pays off.
That's awesome. Any life or physical goals that you're currently working towards, or you have in your mind now?
Well, I do want to be a traveling nurse, because actually that was one of the reasons I got into nursing too, is because one of my friends is a travel nurse, and I got to go visit her in Hawaii, and she told me all about, the whole traveling thing. I'm like, man, how awesome would that be? So that's one of my goals, is to be a travel nurse, and I want my first travel assignment to be somewhere on a beach. I promised Charlie I would take him to a beach, and, just kind of avoid winter, because I hate winter. I love being active and being outdoors, and I do have a seasonal affective disorder, so like when I don't see sun for a long time, it does depress me. So yeah, my goal is to be a travel nurse, avoid winter, going back to school in the fall to get my bachelor's in nursing, and eventually I want to go on and get my master's and my nurse practitioner, and kind of, like I said before, help people take back control of their life through things that they have control over, you know, like diet and what they put in their mouth.
That's
And I have
awesome.
other goals too, as far as just being active. Like this summer, I went kayaking last summer, and that was pretty fun. So I want to do more stuff like that, do more hikes, and obviously take Charlie with me. But yeah, I'm trying to train him how to use a kayak now. I need more stuff that he can do with me, but isn't as physically taxing on him since he's getting a little bit older. So I thought I can do all the work in a kayak, and he can just sit and float down the river with me.
What advice would you give to somebody who's at the beginning of this journey, who's maybe where you were when you were almost 500 pounds and, you know, in a place where it seems insurmountable or, you know, impossible or, you know, like you said, you know, not even be able to realize what the possibilities are? What would you offer to that person?
Make small goals, you know, like even if you just start with the 5 pounds and really focus on adding good stuff. Don't worry about what you need to cut out, because that kind of puts you in the mind frame of being deprived. So don't think, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to eat sugar again. I'm never going to be able to eat a bag of chips again. You know, something like that. Like, just focus on add the good stuff, and eventually that stuff will crowd out the bad stuff. You know, add a 5-minute walk. Even if you do a 5-minute walk every day, you know, eventually it might lead to a 10-minute walk, and then it'll crowd out, you know, 10 minutes of not sitting on the couch and watching TV. So don't focus on what you have to stop or what you can't do anymore. Just start adding in what's good for you. Get more sunlight, get more fruits and vegetables, just move a little bit more. Even if you can't go for a walk and you want to sit on the couch, move while you're sitting on the couch. You know, you can start small. It doesn't have to be taken off a huge chunk right off the get-go. Just start where you're at today.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
Just start dreaming. You know, I'm a dreamer. I imagine a lot. You know, so make your vision boards and think, like, if I were at my goal right now, what would I want my life to be like? What would I want to do? You know, and start like cutting pictures out or using Pinterest. I have like lots of boards on Pinterest where I see other pictures of people doing stuff. I'm like, man, I want a picture like that. I want a picture of me at the top of a mountain with my dog Charlie sitting next to me and be like, I made it. You know, so start dreaming. It's okay to dream.
That's all great advice. And if you could go back in time and have a conversation with your former self, you know, when you were at that 8X size, almost 500 pounds, what kind words would you give to that person?
You're going to make me cry again. It's okay. You don't have to regret what you went through. It's part of your journey. You know, that other saying, you have to have a test before you have a testimony. You know, maybe what I went through will help somebody else. Maybe they won't have to wait until they're, you know, 40 to make a change. Yeah, you're right where you're supposed to be. I mean, yeah, I didn't like going through that, but I think I had to go through that to get to where I am and to be as strong as I am now. So love yourself. Embrace all your challenges because they make you who you are.
That's great. And then lastly, where can people find out more about you and connect with you?
Facebook. I do have a blog, but I haven't kept it up to date. So I really don't want to. Eventually, I'm going to start a new one when I start my travel nursing. I'm going to have a travel diary. But yeah, right now I'm just on Facebook. You can search me by Denise Norris, by my name, in Indiana.
Awesome. Well, Denise, thanks so much for the time, for the inspiration, for your honesty, and congratulations on everything you've done and accomplished. And I look forward to keeping up with you and hearing more about what you have going on and seeing hopefully a picture of you and Charlie in a kayak or on a mountain.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.